an analogy on how to solve algebraic equations, and I'm going to use a putting on a shoe and then taking it off, but for this one we're going to start with the bare foot. So here we are, we're starting with our foot. Okay? So we have our foot. Now the first thing we want to do with our bare foot is put on a sock. So now we have a sock on. Okay? Next thing we want to do is we're going to want to put on our shoe. Okay, so we have our shoe on. Next, we are going to tighten our laces. Okay? Then we are going to tie our laces. So now our shoe is on. Okay? So now our shoe's on. Now as a little kid, you always knew what to do. So what's the first thing we're going to do here if we want to take off our shoe? First thing we're going to do is untie our laces. So we have our laces here and we are untying them. And now we're left with our laces. And what do we want to do with these laces? We want to loosen. So these laces here now, we want to loosen. So now we're at our laces are loosened. So now we want to do something to our shoe. That's what's left. We are going to take off our shoe. Okay, so now we take off our shoe and we're left with our sock. So next, all we have to do is take off our sock and we're left with our foot. Okay? So why is this important? Basically, this shows us one thing. If we're starting, let's say, x, everything we do to x, in order to solve for it, we must work in reverse and do the opposite order. So we're going to be working in reverse of BEDMAS and then doing the opposite actions. So let's take a very simple equation. Let's try 3x plus 4 is equal to 19. Okay? So let's start off here. We're starting off with x. Okay? We're seeing what is happening to x. We're putting on our shoe. So the first thing we do to x, according to BEDMAS, is multiply by 3, which gives me 3x. The next thing we do to x here is plus 4. Okay? Which gives me 3x plus 4. Alright? Now that is equal to 19. So we're done here. We have 3x plus 4. That's as far as we have in my equation. It's equal to that. So we know this is equal to 19. So just like our shoe, we just put on our shoe here. We did this part up here. We put on our shoe. This is actually a lot simpler than putting on a shoe. Now we're going to work backwards. Okay? So we have our laces all tied up here. Next thing we have to do is untie our laces, which was the last thing we did. It was tie our laces in this one. We're going to do the last thing, except we're doing the opposite of it. So instead of tying, we're untying. So here, we do the same thing. This is like doing our shoe. Last thing we did here was add 4. So we're going to do this first to this 19, except what we're also going to do is the opposite operation. So here I'm going to subtract 4. So 19 subtract 4 gives me 15. Okay? So now we must do the next operation right here, because we know 3x is equal to 15. The next operation says times by 3. So the opposite of multiplying by 3 would be to divide by 3. Now we're going to end up getting 15 divided by 3, because we're always taking the one before. 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. So now we know that x is equal to 5. Okay. Let's try one more example here. Let's try this one right here. We're going to go x divided by 3 minus 4 is equal to negative 2. All right? So let's start off. Let's see what's happening to x. So we're starting off with x. We're putting on our shoe. We're seeing what's happening here. We're going to follow bedmass. Well, the first thing I do to x is I'm going to divide by 3. All right? That gives me x over 3. Next thing I'm going to do to x here is subtract 4, which gives me x over 3 subtract 4. Okay. Now I look at that right here. This is my equation. My equation's done. My shoe is on. Now I want to take off my shoe. So this is equal to negative 2. That's my shoe on. Okay. So I want to take it off. So that means I must do to this the exact opposite of what I did to x, and also in the reverse order. So the last thing I did to x is minus 4, and the opposite of subtracting 4 is to add 4. All right. So we have negative 2, and with this negative 2, we are adding 4, which is going to give me plus 2. Okay? Now, I look at this here. We want to do the opposite to this negative 2. There it says divide by 3. Here we're going to multiply, or sorry, here with this plus 2, we're going to multiply by 3. So, because multiplying by 3 is the opposite, I'm going to end up getting x is equal to 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. So that is pretty much how it works if we're thinking about doing things inversely. So basically we're solving for x. What that means is when we're solving for it, we know what the operations are having to x, it's bedmass, but to solve for x we must do the opposite in the opposite order. So we have to do the opposite operation and in the reverse order. So it's like putting on our shoes. If we knew what x is, so let's say we said x was equal to 6, we knew we'd go 6 divided by 3, then subtract 4, because we follow bedmass. But as soon as we have know what it's equal to and we're trying to solve for x, we must work in the opposite and reverse order. So we work the backwards of bedmass and we do the opposite operations that we would normally do to x to solve for x.